Give you the go ahead in just a sec. We are live.
Good morning and welcome to this meeting of the Connecticut Board of Regents for Higher Education. Welcome all remotely, and we appreciate you taking the time to be part of our business today or to observe it. So forward we go. Let me, having called the meeting to order now, ask the Assistant Secretary to commence with the roll call.
Thank you, Chair Fleury. And with the roll, Chair Fleury.
Here.
Regent Harris.
Here.
Regent Balducci.
Here.
Regent Budd.
Here.
Regent Cohen.
Here.
Regent Gray Kemp. Absence is noted. Regent Howery.
Here.
Regent Jimenez.
Here.
Regent Ryan.
Here.
Regent Santiago. Absence is noted. Regent Wright.
Here.
Student Regent Redpath.
Here.
Student Regent Oglesby.
Here.
Professor Blitz.
Here.
Professor Sasanker.
Here.
Commissioner Westby. Absence is noted. Commissioner Gifford. Absence is noted. Commissioner Lehman. Absence is noted. Commissioner Russell Tucker. Absence is noted. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, and good morning again. I would note also the absence of Acting President Gates, who is traveling, and also to say that I've had a number of conversations with our incoming President Chang, and found those to be very, very productive, and look forward very much to him joining us and to the exciting chapter ahead under his leadership in the executive office. I also want to once again just thank Pam, Alice, and all those involved with making these remote meetings happen, which is no small feat whatsoever. And to remark that just as they have worked out every possible kink, they'll find that we are back to the ground and meeting in person, so they don't have to do it as much. So there's some irony in that, but one that I think we're all grateful for. Though I would say that over time, there probably is going to be the continued, even finer work of art of managing in-person participants with remote participants, which probably is even harder than this in some respects. But given the recent news concerning the requirements, obviously getting back on the ground, whether you're on campus or in our offices or at the board level, is something we all look forward to and will be doing soon. So let's start here with the adoption of the agenda. So may I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
I've got a first and a second. Any changes or comments on the agenda? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Great, we're on safe ground with the agenda. We wanted to start this last board meeting of this academic year with some celebrations of our students and faculty. Both have obviously overcome tremendous barriers and challenges through the recent academic year. And we really just want to express our deep appreciation and respect for the realities within which you have been operating and our broader student and faculty and staff community. And on behalf of the board, I want to offer congratulations to all those students who are graduating this month, especially noting the outstanding circumstances and commitment necessary to get to this stage. We have two presentations today that we'll do before we get into the public comment session, which of course we will do, and then we'll get into the rest of the business. And I note that Commissioner Russell Tucker has joined us. Good to see you, Commissioner. Thank you and good morning. So we're going to start with a presentation of the new Students First Scholarship recipients. And for that, I'd like to introduce Helen Sneed, the CSCU Foundation President, and our former assistant president, Mark Ojakian. Good morning, Helen and Mark.
Good morning.
It's all yours.
Good morning.
Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. As you've heard, I'm Helen Sneed. I'm also a proud alumna of Tungus Community College and Central Connecticut State University. So joining your board meeting this morning is an extension of that pride. And it's an honor to share with you the student recipients, as well as the key points of the Students First Scholarship with all of you. Before I begin my formal part of the presentation, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to Vice Chair Merle Harris. It is truly her seeds of inspiration that created this concept, as well as her open-mindedness towards my ideas and approach to inclusiveness and creativity in designing both the process and the criteria for the Students First Scholarship. Thank you, Merle. And thanks to technology, I can also say that both of our student award recipients have joined us this morning. I will introduce them later towards the end of the presentation, and they will each take a couple of minutes to say a few words to everyone. So for the next few minutes, if you would, draw your attention to the slides on the screen, or if you've printed them beside you. As you'll see, the Students First Scholarship, the fund itself was established in 2020. Next, please. The spirit of the scholarship, in honor of retired President Mark Ojakian, and I'm so glad that he's with us this morning as well. And what we wanted to do was honor his vision of placing the needs of the students first. So we had 5 pillars to the spirit of the scholarship. Reach, we wanted to make sure that we could capture the attention of our students at all 12 of our community colleges. Inclusiveness, we wanted to include all students, including those that have general studies as their major. We wanted to look at the whole student. We understand that students have to overcome obstacles, and many of them have experienced trauma either in their lives or their families' lives. And as you know, the educational journey is often complex and nonlinear. So we wanted to recognize that as well as those who had a linear journey of education. And most of all, perhaps, to recognize their goals and dreams that were unique to them and not prescribed by any of us. Next, please. So how did we assign the criteria in order to establish the spirit? Reach. We wanted students to be a Connecticut resident at the time of application and of award. However, it left room for them to move later in the school year. Inclusiveness. We invited all majors, including general studies, and we did not require a letter of recommendation. And as we know, many minority students don't necessarily network or feel comfortable asking for a letter of recommendation. It was more about the student and less about who they knew. The whole student. We invited them to share obstacles that they've overcome. And we gave them the option, as I know we always do, but we made it crystal clear that they could opt out and protect their privacy if they did share any of these obstacles. Their educational journey, we recognized a GPA of 2.5 or higher, and we understood again that personal challenges might come in the way of someone attaining a 3.5 or 4.0. And goals and dreams. Their personal essay was asking them, what does students first mean to you? And many of them spoke about the financial piece. Some of them discussed their needs on campus. Others addressed inclusion. And some touched on they wanted to be work ready. They needed a network of internships, and they were seeking mentors and role models. The award itself, It can be used for tuition, fees, tutoring services, textbooks, or laptops, or really, or truly any course materials. So again, we had an eye on student need and also the digital divide. Next, please. The competition, which we also analyzed as part of our reach. Was it successful? Within 4 weeks and a first-time scholarship, we received 51 applications from 10 of our 12 community colleges. 35 of those 51 met the criteria, which is 69%. And you can see the breakdown here. Some schools had stronger participation than others, but we really did have a great reach for the first time. I'm actually going to skip the next page for a moment, if we could just, thank you. I wanted to show my appreciation and recognition for the energy and engagement of all of you that helped make today possible. The Board of Regents, the CSU Foundation, our 15 donors, 3 of which donated $1,000 each. The fund balance grew to $5,525. To our scholarship committee, all of our colleges and universities, as well as the student applicants. So with that, I would love to introduce you to our first student applicant, Joanna Chanowski Schroeder. Joanna, if you would say a few words. Joanna, you may have to unmute yourself.
I'm so sorry.
That's quite all right.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me today. And thank you, Mrs. Need. Dear Board of Directors, faculty representatives, and the Connecticut State Colleges and University Foundation, I am truly and sincerely honored to have been chosen out of 12 community colleges and 51 applicants as one of only two students' first scholarship recipient. At the same time, I would like to express my gratitude to the Board of Regents CSU Foundation's generosity for sponsoring this scholarship. I was thrilled to learn my selection of this honor, and I'm deeply appreciative of your confidence in me. I'm a student to whom the English language is actually the third language. Nevertheless, I overcame various obstacles which made me stronger and helped me be a better student. And this year, I'm graduating from Tangsis Community College with an associate degree in business studies. And I plan to pursue my career in human resources management upon graduating with a bachelor's degree from the Central Connecticut University next year. In the past 2 years, I was able to successfully complete 25 classes with a GPA of 3.8. Being a full-time student, full-time mom, and full-time employee often make my life stressful and hectic. Therefore, this honor recognizes my sacrifices, my commitment to my family, their future, and my education. By awarding me with the Student's First Scholarship, you provided me with an opportunity to finance my tuition and textbooks, which are so important to have. The scholarship will provide me with the opportunity to stay focused on my academic goals, but more importantly, your generosity has inspired me to help others and give back to the community. And I hope one day I will be able to help students achieve their goals just as you helped me. I will cherish this moment and this award. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So proud of you. And with the same amount of excitement, I would like to introduce all of you to LB, who will also say a few words, and you'll probably need to unmute yourself, LB, as well. So thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning. I'm just gonna say a few words because I know you guys have a meeting to get to. But yeah, good morning, everyone. I really want to deeply thank Helen, President Ojakian, the CSCU Foundation as a whole, and the 15 donors that helped build up this scholarship fund. I was so excited when I heard that I won this scholarship. And again, I really want to thank you all for allowing me to continue forwarding my educational journey. And I want you to know that I will never forget this tremendous show of generosity. So again, thank you, Helen, for organizing all of this. And thank you to all of the donors that helped the foundation.
Thank you, LB. We are so proud of you and congratulations. President Ojakian, I believe the floor is yours.
Thank you, Helen, and good morning, everybody. I apologize for not being able to be with you virtually by WebEx, but as many of you know, technology was not my first language. So you'll have to bear with me as I speak to you over the phone. First of all, it's great to be back with all of you again. I first want to thank the board for the tremendous honor that they bestowed upon me when they created this scholarship to really recognize my vision of students first. I was both honored and humbled when I was told that this scholarship was going to be created. I greatly appreciate not only your support when I was the president, but also this recognition as time goes on. I also want to thank Helen, who I've known for a number of years, who's really a gem, who does incredible work and in pulling all of this together, as well as the donors, the committee, and the team, my former team at CSCU, who I'm sure helped out. To Joanna and LB, congratulations. What a well-deserved honor for both of you. You not only showed that you could succeed, not only could you overcome the many obstacles that were in your way, but you did so within the parameters of a pandemic, which is just truly remarkable. And so your success is the success of all of the students within the system. And I wish you all of the best. I know both of you, I believe, are going to Central. So President Toro is going to be getting 2 incredible students for her class in the fall. Finally, I just want to say that throughout my tenure as president, I always tried to keep the needs of our students at the forefront of every decision and every discussion that was had, to provide equal access and opportunity to everybody who sought higher education within the CSCU system, whether it was a community college, a university, or Charter Oak, whether it was a certificate program or an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. Every student who entered the system deserved the same chance to succeed. And by the recognition of these 2 students today, I think we pay it forward. We recognize that we need to continue that focus, that if Connecticut is going to continue to be a beacon of workforce development in our country, if it's going to continue to be a state where social justice and equal opportunity matter, then the focus on our students needs to be paramount in all of our minds. So with that, I just want to thank everybody again for this incredible recognition, this incredible honor, and to Joanna and LB, best of luck. I'm sure I will see and read great things about you in the future. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mark. Helen, thank you, and congratulations to LB and Joanna. And we appreciated your personal words. Helen, if that concludes the presentation, I want to offer the floor to the vice chair for a moment.
Thank you, Chairman Fleury. I want to thank Helen for the work that she did putting this together, and it took a lot of time. As you could see, there were many applicants, and just that process took time. I think it's wonderful that we're doing this. I want to congratulate LB and Joanna. They're remarkable students and a good way to begin. I would like to say it would be great if we could continue this award. We have a balance, and if we continue to contribute every year, we will be able to make this part of the system, something that this transfer scholarship really recognizes our values and what is important to us. So I'm encouraging everyone to contribute so that next year at this time, we again can do at least two awards, maybe even more. Thank you again, Helen. Congratulations, Mark. We miss you, and we're glad that you're back in Connecticut, and hope to see you at future events. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me just invite Helen with perhaps Pam's assistance to send to the members of the board a link or whatever facility you have set up for donations. I know members of this board have contributed to that fund. I look forward to doing so and invite my colleagues around the board to do so again if you already did, or for the first time if you haven't, because as was stated, this is a need and an opportunity that will continue hopefully in perpetuity. So feel free to forward along the information so we all know how to do that.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate that. Again, thank you both as well, the entire board, everyone that has donated. President Ojakian, thank you for your kind words. And those of you that do know me, you really do know that I do this out of love and appreciation for having been gifted the same type of opportunity. To our two students, again, I am so proud of the both of you. And thank you for joining us this morning, and thank you for having us.
All right. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to now turn back to the vice chair and Dr. Klosnik to tell us about the faculty awards.
Thank you. This is a great start to a meeting. Our students and our faculty are the core of what we do. I mean, they really make a difference, and they are the CCSU system. And it was great honoring two students today as they move from a community college to a four-year institution in our system. And actually, they're both moving to the same institution as was pointed out. We also have before us today our Board of Regents awards are to faculty. And this year, obviously, we're doing it online. Last month, if you recall, you approved 19 CSCU faculty members as recipients of the annual 2020-2021 Board of Regents campus-based and system-wide faculty awards. These awards are given to faculty who have distinguished themselves as outstanding teachers, promoting instructional improvement and innovation, or who are doing exceptional research, scholarly, or creative work that informs what they do in the classroom. The caliber of teaching and research award winners throughout the CSCU system is really, truly inspiring. These exceptional faculty focus on student success, and these awards provide a means of recognizing their outstanding work. Board of Regents Teaching Awards are presented to faculty from each of the 4 state universities and 12 community colleges. System-wide awards are then selected from institutional awardees. In addition, we have adjunct system-wide teaching awards, and these are given to outstanding adjunct faculty. Board of Regents Research Awards are presented to faculty from Central, Eastern, Southern, and Western Connecticut state universities, and one system-wide research award is given to the individual who best exemplifies high-quality research among the nominees. Board of Regents Scholarly Excellent Awards recognize community college faculty who conduct high-quality scholarly work or exemplary creative activity. One system-wide awardee is selected from among these outstanding faculty. We have 2 system-wide adjunct faculty teaching awards recognizing part-time faculty throughout the CSCU system who have distinguished themselves as outstanding teachers. Before we hear more about the campus-based winners and the system-wide awardees, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the extraordinary work of the members of the various selection committees and the administrative staff who reviewed countless nomination letters and letters of support from colleagues, students, and alumni. These awards could not be granted without their commitment to the importance of this recognition, and it is truly important recognition. Committee members, as you can see, a selection committee before you, are all previous award recipients. And they've gone well beyond what they do in the classroom or in their research by serving as committee members this year. So I thank you, committee members, and now I will call on Dr. Klichnik, Vice President of Academic Affairs, and who will present the awardees in each category.
Thank you, Regent Harris, and good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to honor our faculty award recipients and recognize their outstanding scholarly work. Our CSCU faculty are committed to their institutions and dedicated to mentoring our students while engaging in teaching and state-of-the-art research. Their efforts contribute to student success and have a profound impact on the entire CSCU community. Next slide, please. The 2020-21 Board of Regents Teaching and Research Award recipients are as follows. The campus-based Board of Regents Teaching Awards for the Connecticut State Universities are Dr. Maya Alani at Western, Dr. Susan DeRosa at Eastern, Dr. Rachel Fury at Southern, and Dr. Susan Koski at Central. Next slide. And the recipient of the System-Wide Board of Regents Teaching Award for the Connecticut State University is Dr. Maya Alani at Western Connecticut State University. Dr. Alani came to Western in 2013 already a highly skilled teacher, and since that time has significantly expanded her own teaching repertoire, published pedagogical research, and made considerable contributions to the university's culture of teaching. She is an integral part of her department regarding the improvement and assessment of teaching and learning and facilitates engagement, questions, and feedback from all her students. Congratulations, Dr. Alani. Next slide, please. Next, the campus-based Board of Regents Teaching Awards for the Connecticut Community Colleges. Dr. Vandana Basu from Three Rivers, Dr. Patrick Bryan from Middlesex, Amelie Cross from Esnuntuck, Dr. Matthew Dunn from Housatonic, Joshua Hummel from Capital, Tatiana Machado from Tunxis, and Jessica Malahan from Gateway. Next slide. And the recipient of the system-wide Board of Regents Teaching Award for the Connecticut Community Colleges is Dr. Matthew Dunn from Housatonic Community College. Dr. Dunn has had rich and varied experiences at Housatonic Community College. In addition to his extraordinary work in the classroom, he has been a faculty advisor to the Student Senate and the Political Science and History Clubs, and has been a faculty chaperone for experiential learning trips. He has also served as an advisor for the Debate Club and Student Advisory Committee. Since 2019, Dr. Dunn has served as Housatonic's TAP advisor, working to improve TAP advising and to provide students with an annual TAP orientation and weekly opportunities for TAP advising. Congratulations, Dr. Dunn. Next slide, please. And now, campus-based Board of Regents Research Award recipients for the Connecticut State Universities are Dr. Thomas J. Balsersky, Dr. Joshua Kodera, Dr. Rati Kumar, Dr. Jason W. Smith. Next slide. And the recipient of the System-Wide Board of Regents Research Award for Connecticut State Universities is Dr. Thomas J. Balsersky from Eastern Connecticut State University. Dr. Balsersky's achievements for this award are in the field of American history, achievements that include a monograph with Oxford University Press, scholarly articles in peer-reviewed journals, academic reviews, and a constant media presence during the recent presidential election and its aftermath. Perhaps even more importantly, he connects his scholarly activity to the classroom and to his work with students at Eastern. Dr. Balsersky personifies Eastern's mission as a public liberal arts university through his work and continues to represent the very best of the Connecticut State University system. Congratulations, Dr. Balsersky. Next slide, please. Next, the campus-based Board of Regents Scholarly Excellence Award recipients for the Connecticut Community Colleges are Dr. Kobe Stewart from Asnuntuck and Joyce Voisin from Tunxus. Next slide. And the system-wide Board of Regents Scholarly Excellence Award recipient for the Connecticut Community Colleges is Dr. Kobe Stewart. The criminal justice program and his students have truly been the beneficiaries of Dr. Stewart's immersion into the Asnuntuck community. Dr. Stewart represents one of 6 programs in the college's careers programs, one of 3 departments at Asnuntuck. He contributes greatly to discussions of enrollment and retention and has incredible contacts at four-year colleges, both within Connecticut and Massachusetts. He serves on the Equity Committee for Achieving the Dream, the statewide association of CJ coordinators from all of the community colleges, and now the newly formed statewide criminal justice task force. Dr. Stewart is a thoughtful scholar, an engaging professor, and a realistic practitioner deserving of this award. Congratulations, Dr. Stewart. Next slide, please. And finally, the Board of Regents would like to congratulate all of this year's Adjunct Faculty Teaching Award nominees. Kathleen Powers at Asnuntuck, Alexandra Carey at Capital, Deborah Cresu Owens at Housatonic, Jessica Solziak at Manchester, Patty Klein at Tunxus, Dr. Sylvia Halil Gutierrez at Central, Dr. Regina Miller at Charter Oak, Brenda Westbury at Eastern, and Alina Epifano Byrne at Southern. Next slide, please. And the two system-wide Board of Regents Adjunct Faculty Teaching Award recipients are, next slide, Dr. Regina Miller at Charter Oak State College and Jessica V. Solziak at Manchester Community College. Dr. Miller has helped Charter Oak State College develop learning outcomes and requirements for programs in early childhood education, has reviewed and approved student plans of study, has provided guidance to both students and staff, has reviewed courses and credentials that students wanted to transfer to Charter Oak, and has reviewed early childhood non-credit training programs for credit. She goes above and beyond to help students, ensuring that they graduate with the skills they need to be excellent teachers. And Professor Solziak from Manchester Community College. For over 4 years, Jess has taught the first year experience for women in STEM programs and has helped 6 cohorts navigate over, under, around, and through the ups and downs of life as a student intent on earning a degree in a STEM field. 40% of the students who completed the program graduated from Manchester Community College with an associate's degree in science and/or transferred to a 4-year college or university. No small feat at a community college. She provides a welcoming atmosphere for her students in the Women in STEM program through personal reviews and group orientations, as well as explicit instructions on how to achieve success in the class and many ways to find support. Her objective always is to help students define and sometimes redefine what success looks like for each individual. Please help me congratulate all of our 2021 Board of Regents Faculty Award recipients. And now Regent Harris.
Regent Harris, you're muted.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you'll all agree that these are just outstanding faculty members, and they do their best daily to ensure that our students are successful while they make significant contributions both to their disciplines and to their institutions. It's very hard to do this at a distance. This we know how to work during a pandemic, but somehow this does not replace a really good hand clasp and a handshake. And I wish I could do that. I wish we could have everyone together, and hopefully we will next year, because these are, as I said a moment ago, truly outstanding people. And we're really fortunate to have the caliber of faculty that we do at our community colleges and our state universities. So thank you to the committee and congratulations to all the awardees.
Thank you. Thank you again. And congratulations again. Very exciting to celebrate these successes and these marvelous professionals and students. I want to note that we're joined by Regent Gray Kemp. Nice to see you this morning. Pleased to have you with us for what's been a really wonderful part of the program here. We're going to once again provide time for public comment in our meeting. We do have some business items to attend to here. So we're going to limit this, which I think is kind of what we do, to about 30 minutes. And I don't know whether we have 30 minutes worth of speakers at 3 minutes each, but that is the allotted time. And I believe those who wish to speak have let the Assistant Secretary know that. And I am going to hand off to you, Pam, to facilitate the public comment, after which we'll get into the business portion of the meeting. We can't hear you, Pam.
Thank you. In addition to the 7 presenters today, we've received 1 letter from the public, which has been forwarded to the regents in advance of this meeting. And in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act guidelines as amended during the pandemic, the communication was posted on the CSCU website immediately prior to the meeting start time. And with that precursor, I'd like to welcome our first faculty presenter, Dr. Andrew Smith. And Alice, if you could bring him in. He is in. Dr. Smith, there you are, and you have your 3 minutes, and you may begin now.
Good morning, Regents, and thank you for allowing me to address you today. My name is Andrew Smith, and I am the chair of the English department at Southern Connecticut State University. I am here to voice opposition to the ACME proposal before you. This proposal is not a result of collaboration among faculty at the state colleges and universities. It is a top-down imposition of anti-student curriculum policies in math and English that will further the inequities and divisions that we have long seen in Connecticut education. ACME and its proponents use selective and often illegitimate research to support a streamlining plan that will harm the prospects of students who most need a structured curriculum taught by highly qualified faculty. In place of rigorous and appropriate courses to meet the needs of students with a variety of skills and abilities, ACME will offer a one-size-fits-all course in English with an opt-out model of co-requisites, with no guarantee of adequate qualifications and funding for those providing academic support services, and no serious measures to compel students to take full advantage of these opportunities. This approach undercuts the critical foundations in English as well as math necessary for academic and career success. The SCSU Faculty Senate has approved a strongly worded resolution against ACME. Faculty Advisory Committee Chair Kalina Sasankar offered compelling testimony against ACME at the ASA meeting this month, pointing out the lack of detail in the research, data, and plans in the proposal. The Connecticut Coalition of English Teachers has issued a statement to the BOR expressing deep disapproval of the elimination of developmental English courses and of the optional and ungraded co-requisite support system in ACME. Their survey of national research and data reveals evidence that complicates and contradicts the efficacy of such a system. I want to highlight two of the many areas of concern in English matters that should cause you to vote against this proposal. One, the violation of faculty governance in the area where it matters most, curriculum. And two, the misuse of the concept and practice of intrusive advising as a way to compel college students to make use of co-requisite supports at the heart of the ACME proposal. Intrusive advising can be a very helpful tool in reaching out to students, especially those who are struggling, and can provide guidance and opportunities for support across a range of campus services, including academic support. It does not require students to attend optional co-requisite sessions that purportedly will make all the difference for those who are not fully prepared for the one composition course they will get across their entire academic careers in the CSCU system. This ACME policy continues Connecticut's tradition of denying access to the underserved, and I sincerely hope you will vote against it today. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Smith.
They will get across their entire academic careers in the CS.
Megan, you may begin.
Yes, thank you. Hello, my name is Megan Barboza, and I'm a faculty member in biology in the department, in the biology department at Southern. I'm here as an example of someone who would have benefited from tenure clock stoppage for a major life event. During my renewal process, I met with my dean, who expressed a desire to help me achieve my professional goals and asked me what I needed. I told him that I needed time. He said that he would do his best to get me a tenure clock stoppage so that even though I wouldn't have paid maternity leave, the months working full-time with a newborn at home wouldn't be held against me when my research was evaluated. He found out that I was not eligible because there was no mechanism in the current contract to stop the clock, even though all parties recognized that it would have been to everybody's benefit. As it happened, I went into labor at 36 weeks pregnant while advising a student in my office, and I had to have an ambulance called. My husband barely made it for the delivery. I was advising despite the fact that I was having some pain because I needed to be there for my students, and I didn't have enough sick leave to stay home. During my next pregnancy, on the advice of my doctor, I jumped through a lot of hoops in order to go out before my due date to avoid a similar scenario. Although it was a scramble, I was able to arrange my classes to end 2 weeks early, and I submitted my grades 3 hours before my water broke. My second daughter was born 4 hours later, also at 36 weeks. Like a lot of faculty, I do a majority of my research during the summer, even though I am only paid for 10 months of work. There just isn't enough time to achieve the research expectations during the school year when we teach 12 hours. However, I had medical issues following the birth of my first child, and I wound up back in the hospital twice. I had a very difficult time accomplishing my research goals that summer at some cost to my health. When my second daughter was 3 days old, she had emergency surgery for an intestinal condition which required her to be in the NICU for 71 days. During that summer, I was not doing my research. I had to return to teach about a month after she came home from the NICU. She was still getting treatments and having many doctor's appointments. But again, there wasn't a mechanism for me to pause my research agenda, nor could we afford unpaid leave. In both cases, I felt supported by my department and my local administration, but there was no way to support working parents in the contract. So I was left fearing that I would not be evaluated fairly for the research I was able to complete. I've told my story to several colleagues and have spoken to at least 3 other faculty members who went into labor during class or had to have an ambulance called to the school. There are others I'm sure who have faced unnecessary hardships because of the system's outdated approach to families. Real paid family medical leave in the contract would provide educational continuity for our students. If a faculty member knows that they're not going to be able to complete the semester, it's in everyone's interest that it is not handled as an emergency. At the very least, I ask that you instruct your chief negotiator to agree to tenure clock stoppage. It's a win-win, something my administration wanted to provide me but couldn't, something I would have benefited from, and in the long run, it would save money. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Barboza. Our next presenter is Dr. Susan Holt, Psychological Science at Central.
Yes, hello, and thank you for allowing me this time to chat. My name, yes, as you said, I'm at Central, and I'm a part-time faculty member and have been one now for 17 years. So the first issue I'd like to raise is that of economic justice for faculty members. And there is a stereotypic and naive, inaccurate view that all we do is go into course, teach the class, and that's it. Well, it's entirely inappropriate because, first of all, we need to keep abreast of our fields. We need to prepare each course and update it. We need to assign, create, and grade the papers, and create exams, grade them, and see the students outside of classes for any needs that they may have. And for me, that takes quite a bit of time during the semester because I encourage my students to come see me for help for things like doing better in class, or they may be interested in some aspect of psychology because they may want to go into that particular area. So I encourage them to come and to see me. So this is far more than simply going into class and teaching it. And we need to be appropriately compensated for all the work that we do. And at present, we're not. So the pay associated with part-time faculty members needs to be increased substantially. And this I consider a matter of economic justice for part-time faculty. Another economic matter is that of sick days. And here, part-time faculty get no pay for sick days. What happens is that full-time faculty members earn a certain number of sick days annually. And if they need to, they can pull on this bank for even longer term needs. That is, other faculty have donated to these banks and not used it for any lengthy sicknesses that they may have. And for our purposes, it would be very good if part-time faculty members could also accrue sick days, but also draw from the sick day bank.
Dr. Holt, you must wrap up your comments, please.
Thank you. Thank you. So I encourage that this be also done because it costs the system nothing at all to draw from the sick day bank. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Holt. Our next presenter is Dr. Stephen Monroe Tomczak. There you are. Your 3 minutes may begin.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, very good. Okay. Shortly, you will vote on my promotion to full professor. And while I appreciate the anticipated endorsement of my accomplishments, this is for me a bittersweet moment. Why? Because the institution that I graduated from 30 years ago and where I now teach is being decimated by this board through its contract proposals and by the lack of state government investment for which this board should be relentlessly advocating at the legislature and in the governor's office. The contract proposals, which are the most extreme I have seen in my time as a faculty member, will again decimate our universities as we have known them. My colleagues from across the CSU system have come before you for months outlining the ways in which these specific proposals undercut the credibility of the institutions and the quality of education that we provide. These unusually draconian proposals double down on a pattern of disinvestment that has plagued public higher education since I was a student at Southern in the 1980s. State appropriations have steadily declined and tuition rates have steadily risen, going from roughly $500 a semester that we paid in the 1980s to over 10 times that amount today. Chairman Fleury has objected in the past that the board does not set the levels of state financing for our universities. Perhaps not. But BOR members and system personnel have an obligation to aggressively advocate for increased state funding for our universities, not only on the spending side, but also on the revenue side. Instead, this board seems satisfied to manage defeat by implementing various forms of retrenchment, such as the inappropriately named Students First community college plan and pressing for further cutbacks to faculty and students through aggressive contract proposals. There is a better way. Public investment that the board could choose to fight for in partnership with the faculty. Recently, AUP has joined with other organizations to campaign for a new deal for higher education, which calls for a return to the belief in higher education as a common good. Similarly, here in Connecticut, CSU AUP has put forth a vision of opening minds, opening doors, which proposes a path to an exceptional CSU system that can be realized only by reinvestment and commitment to the public good that is higher education. Members of the CSU faculty, myself included, were proud to testify before the Finance Committee this session, calling for a progressive tax structure to provide the revenue for public services like higher education, if there is to be true equity in the state. Representatives from CSU administration and this board were notably absent. The Connecticut State Universities transform our students' lives. Our students become the state's future leaders, our future employees and employers, our future taxpayers. I am an example of how this investment pays off, a Connecticut resident now working to train our next generation. And so on this day that I received the final promotion of my faculty career, I ask you to abandon austerity and attacks on our universities and join AUP in the struggle to return to the kind of public investment approach for this and future generations of students from which my generation had benefited from. Thank you for the opportunity to address you on this day.
Thank you. Your 3 minutes is up. Our next presenter is Maria DeMantis, a faculty from Southern.
I'm sorry, Pam, I had a technical issue. Are you looking for the next speaker?
I am for Maria DeMantis.
Go.
Maria? Could you test your audio, please?
Good morning. This is Maria.
Good morning.
Can you hear? Okay, you can hear me well. Thank you.
Thank you. And your 3 minutes can start now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm a professor at Southern Connecticut State University at the Curriculum and Learning Department, and I'm here today to take some of your precious time and bring up some points because my colleagues and I are concerned about the information that the regions are receiving about the negotiations is partially at best and sometimes maybe inaccurate in key respects. CSU AUP took a problem-solving approach to the contract, Our members are concerned about work-life balance and structural inequities, as you just heard from my colleagues before, and about workload as it affects education quality and about health and safety. We crafted our proposals with the pandemic and its likely effects the CSU budgets in mind. None of our proposals were extreme, nor did we approach the process with the goal of meeting in the middle. Our intent was and is to improve the system for everyone. To illustrate, in order to solve some long-standing problems at the CSUs, our team crafted a mechanism whereby we can provide paid leave and medical leave by drawing on our established sick leave bank. Another of our proposals to allow members with serious life events like a birth or adoption of a child to pause the tenure clock, which I think you heard a moment ago from another colleague, have been recognized by campus administrators at a cost-saving win-win situation. Your chief negotiator dismissed those life events like the childcare issue and family leave, which disproportionately affect women as corner cases to be handled on an individual basis. This proposal to include stop the clock in the contract is a family-friendly best practice in academia, and it is a matter of gender equity. Our team entered the negotiations in December ready to consider agenda items as they arose. Yet, on multiple occasions, our team received additions to the agenda shortly before the scheduled meetings. We have been deliberate about proposing agenda items that are manageable and logically coherent. We will not be rushed to consider proposals whose implications may not be readily apparent. If that's your team's strategy, that's not a good one. That's a bad one. Our team will continue to research each agenda item carefully in order to reach informed agreements. In some cases, it might come to news to you at this point that your proposal to increase the faculty teaching load is still on the table, because your chief negotiator insists on linking proposals making agreement on some issues contingent upon agreement on others, often unrelated proposals. For instance, he continues to package items upon which the teams have largely agreed upon, such as your proposal to eliminate the promotion and tenure committee, which is the proposal that would place the CSUs in a very embarrassing and destructive outlier position by gutting one of the most foundational processes in shared governance. In closing,
Maria, thank you. Could you wrap up, please? Thank you.
Thank you. The CBA has important implications for the quality of education, and our students is in jeopardy of this. It is your responsibility to redefine relationships in these negotiations. Please listen to us. Take the responsibility in your hands. Help our students. They are the most important thing for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Jesse Turner is our next presenter, professor at Central. And thank you. Your 3 minutes may begin. Jesse, you may begin.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Jesse. I'm a proud professor of literacy, elementary, and early childhood school education at Central Connecticut State University for the last 22 years. I'm here today to present the board with a petition that as of today has over 1,000 signatures, not from faculty, but from students, alums, and their friends and their family members all over Connecticut and beyond. Alaric Hutchinson, the author of Living in Peace, said about listening, bravery is the choice to show up and listen to another person, be it a loved one or perceived foe, even when it is uncomfortable, painful, or the last thing you want to do. But these more than 1,000 signatures want you, the regions, to know that they're concerned about the likely impact of your contract proposals on the education and reputations of the universities they love, the universities listed on their diplomas and their resumes. This is the text of the petition of over 1,000 people signed. Last December, the Board of Regents exchanged contract proposals with CSU AAUP, the union that represents professors, counselors, librarians, coaches, and trainers at Central Connecticut and Eastern and Western Connecticut State Universities. Many of the Regent's proposals threaten the quality of education students receive by removing the caps that keep class sizes small, making it easier to eliminate entire programs or move them to other campuses, jeopardizing the accreditation programs in the entire institution and making it more difficult for faculties to contribute and to stay current in their disciplines or professions so they can provide students with up-to-date knowledge and skills. If they prevail, the Regent's proposals will hollow out the schools we love. CCSU students have worked hard to get into college and working hard to stay and graduate. The faculty respect those goals and will stand by them while they are being undercut. So the undersigned students, alumni, friends, and family members believe that CSU students deserve an excellent university education. Our communities need CCSU graduates who are ready to face the challenges of a changing world. We will not settle for just barely good enough education. So we urge Regents to listen to these 1,000 student voices and take your destructive proposals off the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final presenter is William Fothergill from Counseling and Student Development at Central. You ready? William?
I'm ready.
Your 3 minutes may begin.
Good morning, everybody. Again, I'm William Fothergill from Central Connecticut State University, Office of Counseling and Student Development, and I'm going to be addressing issues related to Article 7 of the contract. The BOR has submitted a proposal for Article 7 that demonstrates a lack of understanding about the work of the counseling faculty in our system. Do you know who we are? Do you know what we do? How much do you know about the counseling faculty and the contributions that we make on our campuses? Do you know that there are only 12 AUP counselors that are on the 4 campuses in our role are primarily responsible for serving thousands of students who may be requesting support services? Do you know who we are? We are the employees who work beyond our work hours. We arrive early. We work through our lunch hours. We stay late to coordinate resources or complete referrals, case management tasks, and finishing notes and reports. We are the faculty that has to look into the eyes of the hurting, the lost, those experiencing multiple deaths of family members due to COVID, those that don't think that life is worth living, the victims of sexual assault, those struggling with major mental health issues. They have a desire to earn their degree, and we do our best to help them. None of the universities in the system meet accreditation standards for counseling staffing. None. But UConn does. Your proposal seeks to weaken job security, eliminate vital clerical supports, increase work demands, and eliminate opportunities for counseling faculty to contribute to our institutions. The BOR has chosen to propose changes to the contract that implies that counselors are not doing enough. You fail to propose anything to address the growing needs of counseling supports, nothing to create a balance in our schedules where we can ethically fulfill our clinical responsibilities, to meet CEU requirements to maintain our required licenses, and to propose nothing to create counseling, to increase counseling staffing. Who are we? We establish emotional and wellness supports that greatly contribute to the college success outcomes, yet your proposals implies none of this matters. You have proposed changes to Article 7 without knowing who we are or what we do. How many of you have ever visited one of our counseling centers or spoken to one of our counselors? How many of you are willing, and what are you willing to do to sacrifice for the personal and to create, to personally create a viable contract for everyone, like staffing and fully staffing our counseling centers? What do we need? We need for you to take the time to understand who we are as counseling faculty and the vital role that we play before submitting proposals that do harm. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes our 7 faculty members' public comment. Chair Fleury.
Thank you. I'd like to take a moment as we shift to the next section of our meeting to congratulate our student regents, our chair and vice chair of the Student Advisory Committee, Audrey and Antonia, on their imminent graduations. I know you're fitting this in with the race to the finish and all the obligations that has. So congratulations. Thanks for committing the time to this work, which clearly is complex and challenging for everybody. We also want to take a moment to congratulate a couple of the regents who recently had their nominations or renominations confirmed by the General Assembly. Regent Balducci, good to know that you'll continue to be with us with the heavy lift of the finance chairmanship. And he's not with us today, but Ari Santiago also was confirmed. So congrats and thanks to you. As I alluded to, the executive order modifying open meetings during the pandemic expires in July. So we're looking forward to hold hopefully the September Board of Regents meeting in person back at Woodland Street. And the team is going to endeavor to work out a way to do that elegantly and seamlessly in a hybrid format for those who continue to need to dial in, so to speak, remotely. And, you know, that ties to the look forward we have to full operations on campuses this fall. The repopulation over the summer, faculty and staff being able to get back to offices. And we just want to thank the campus leaders and staff and faculty for their hard work this year to try to provide the fullest possible educational experience while keeping everyone safe. Now I'd like to just spend a few moments on the One College effort and ask our interim president of the Connecticut State Community College, Dr. Levinson, to give us a brief summary of that in anticipation of an update that we'll be providing to our accreditors, the New England Commission on Higher Education, fondly referred to as NECHI around here. So President Levinson, if you can give us a few minutes for a brief summary of what you'll be reporting, we'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Chairman Fleury, for the opportunity this morning. I will be doing a brief presentation on the progress report that we will be filing with NECHI on June 8th. In their letter to us last August, NECHI asked us to show them enrollment, financial, and staffing details for the 12 colleges that currently exist, which we are doing. In addition, they asked us specifically to reference 5 items in our next progress report. One was developing a strategic plan for Connecticut State that involves faculty in the process. I'm very happy to report that we've had a lot of planning activities during the year. 24 faculty and staff from the 12 colleges through our Achieving the Dream initiative have been planning what will be happening and the structure of the local campuses when we consolidate, and also have been focusing on enrollment action plans. In addition, we have a 49-person strategic planning committee that represents all stakeholders that has been meeting throughout the year. Second issue about shared governance, the commission has asked us to report on integrating faculty into developing a shared governance model. And we've had a task force that has met for a few years. They've developed a proposal, and that is being assessed by all of the governance structures at our 12 colleges. A third item is about aligning the curriculum, and we've had over 200 faculty involved in that process. They have considered 37 associate degrees, 18 certificates, and 572 courses. And that work will also be continuing this summer. A fourth issue we've been asked to report on the implementation of a guided pathways. And as you know, that's going to reduce the ratio of advisor to students from 1 to 750 to 1 to 250. It will allow us to engage with guided pathway advisors who will be providing a wraparound advisement model to all of our students. This will not only address their academic needs and career aspirations, but also other needs they have, whether it be food and shelter, and the trauma, quite honestly, that the pandemic has caused all of us. And by next month, we will have hired over 30 counselors who will be deployed to our colleges during that first round of rolling out our Guided Pathways initiative. And finally, for this morning, we've been asked to also assure that the 12 individually accredited community colleges continue to meet NETGE standards for accreditation. And I've been doing that myself as a former NETGE commissioner. I have a good understanding of the standards of accreditation. I've been working with all of our colleges, those who are submitting 10-year reviews, 5-year reviews, and also annual reports. So I think we're in very good shape as to what we've accomplished this past year. Again, we will be submitting our full report to NETGE on June 8th, and I look forward to coming back to the board at that time and discussing our progress further. Thank you so much for the opportunity this morning. And Chairman Fleury, I will pass this back to you.
Thank you. Thanks for the update and the good work. And obviously, we're all going to be very interested to hear the latest response, and to the extent that it can be called guidance from NETGE, which is fastidious about adherence to their protocols and our adherence to the standards that they set as we move forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to now ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion or revisions to the minutes?
Chairman Fleury, if I may just for a moment make a comment.
Is this about the minutes?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's just a follow-up. In the absence of Interim President Gates, on page 17 of the minutes, page 20 of the PDF, reference is made to a request that I made at the last meeting for a committee or a working group on mandatory vaccination. And as indicated in the minutes, Interim President Gates said she would look into this after the meeting, which she did. And she did charge me with creating a working group to report back on mandatory vaccination. All that I want to say is that we have submitted our report yesterday to Dr. Gates with a recommendation for mandatory vaccination with 10 action items. And we also responded to 6 issues that she had brought up. So I'm just bringing this up now as a follow-up to the minutes and something which I believe should be brought back to the board once it has gone to the ASA and HR committees for its June meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not hearing you suggest a change to the minutes.
No.
This is information sharing. Okay, thank you. Any changes to the minutes? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, the minutes are approved. We have a consent agenda. May I have a motion and a second on the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions, discussion on the consent agenda? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Okay, the consent agenda is approved. Thank you. We have, I believe, one committee reporting today with action item, and that is the Academic and Student Affairs Committee. And I'm going to turn over to the committee chair and our board vice chair, Regent Harris, to lead the discussion there. And at such point as you'd like to put a resolution on the table for discussion in that venue, just let us know.
Okay, I certainly will. As I make my comments, as I start to explain the ACME proposal for members of the board who do not serve on the Academic and Student Affairs Committee, I want to assure everyone that we all have the same goals. We are interested in our students and student success. And ACME, which is the alignment and completion of math and English, is a policy that we believe will move our community college students toward completion of gateway math and English courses. This is the first step in the completion of a degree. If you do not have these courses, if you do not pass these courses, you will not be able to go on, obviously, and earn an associate degree or move on to transfer. So let's talk about what is in ACME and how we got to the point where we are today. The proposal begins on page 126. And what we're doing is we are moving students from a prerequisite model of math and English to a co-requisite model, which includes support. This discussion actually began in 2012. So it's a long time now, 9 years that we've been looking at developmental education. And in 2012, PA 1240 was enacted. This was a legislative process, not a Board of Regents process. And there was disagreement at the time. And where we ended up, where the legislature ended up, was a compromise. It was moving some students to a co-requisite model, but still allowing some developmental education. We've been following what has been happening. We have been looking at the data, and we don't believe we are where we should be at this point in time. That we do not have a large enough number of students passing those gateway courses. And this is particularly true for minoritized students. Their pass rates are extremely low. So between 2019 and 2020, we had a large number of working groups engaged in the development of the proposal that is before you today. We have staff here and that have worked on it: Dr. Kluchnik, Dr. DeSantis, Dr. Francine Rosali Navarra. I may not get everyone's doctor, but Heidi Zenny, Mike Stefanowitz, Kim Sorrentino, and Amanda McTaggart are among those people. And if I didn't call you a doctor, I apologize. But we really appreciate your time and energy on this proposal. We also have been guided by outside support. The Charles A. Dana Center at the University of Texas at Austin has helped us identify best practices from across the country to inform the policy before you today. Why is ACME important? I already indicated that if you don't pass English and math, don't earn a degree. And I know this from some of the work I did many years ago with the community colleges. Many students would take almost the full program, then all of a sudden try math and never be able to succeed and never graduate. So we're looking at helping students within the first year or 24 credits take those courses and pass those courses. Greg, you have some slides. I want to provide some evidence of why we think this is important. Thank you. As I indicated, the legislature in 2012 passed PA 1240. ACME builds on what we saw happening from this legislation and what we tried in PA 1240, and frankly, what has worked in other states and actually better in other states, as you will see in a moment. The reality is full-scale co-requisite support will help more students succeed. The students, as you can see here, are twice as likely to complete a gateway course when they go through a co-requisite model, both in mathematics and English. Therefore, we want to expand the successful model that we have now, co-requisite, to cover all students. We're making modifications, but every student will be offered the opportunity to and engage in this co-requisite model with supports. Other states have shown that a co-requisite model at full scale is better for students from minoritized communities and better for students identified at least prepared. This statistic amazed me. For example, in Georgia, students who scored the lowest on ACTs, which is like our SATs, saw a 50-point increase under co-requisite support. So 11% passed the gateway course on with prerequisite in the prerequisite model, 61% in the co-requisite model. Let's look at the Connecticut model currently versus the Tennessee model. For every 2,000 students in Connecticut, you will see that 220 students succeed, or 11% in Gateway Math. For every 2,000 students in Tennessee, 1,200 students succeed passing Gateway Math. That's 55% of students pass Gateway Math. I mean, that is a huge difference. Continue, please. Who is co-requisite support better for? California also is doing a co-requisite model. And when they compare co-requisite to prerequisite, you will see the difference are 34%, for example, of white students pass the gateway course in the prerequisite model, 67% in the co-requisite model. And you can see the amazing difference, for example, of Latino and African American students. So all students benefit, but the increase, for example, in African American students from 22% passing the gateway course to 48% shows the value of this approach. So ACME builds on what works, we believe, and what will work for our students. What are the major components? The co-requisite, not prerequisite support, as I've said. And it's really important to note that the gateway courses will provide, there will be additional student support for students, and it is not one size fits all. That comment was made this morning. There will be different support for different students. So that we will look at the student where the student is and take them where we think where they know they should be going. We will use grade point average to place students. This is not using placement exams as we did a lot before. Now we began using grade point averages exclusively this past year because of the pandemic, and we believe it is a good approach. But students can ask for other measures in addition to their gateway GPA. If they feel there was a reason their GPA is lower, but they want to take a placement exam, they want to write an essay, there'll be other things that can be designed. And the last part of the ACME is that mathematics pathways will be aligned to students' programs and career goals. So, example, everyone will not take algebra unless you're going into a STEM discipline. Other courses will be designed for students perhaps majoring in criminal justice or psychology. There's been intense discussion over the last year. The proposal was put together last summer. It was shared in the fall with faculty and actually across the system. And everyone listened. I think that's the important thing. There were many suggestions and recommendations that were made to change the proposal. And if you look on pages 133 to 135 in the report, you will see a number of these changes, and they are significant. I think the most important one, however, is the timeline was changed. Now, the proposal states that ACME will be implemented no earlier than 2023 and no later than 2025. The reason that's really important is as faculty design the ACME courses, there will be a chance to actually pilot things and see what is working and was not working. And faculty will look at that data, and if there's a change needed, they will be able to come up with those changes as we move along. At the May ASA meeting, Dr. Tanya Milner, Associate Vice President of Teaching and Learning for Connecticut State Community College, asked that she could voice her support of ACME. She spoke both of her experiences as a student and as an academic. This is her field. And I was actually touched by what she had to say. I was moved, and I felt I would like all the members of the board to be able to hear her thoughts on ACME. And again, this is from someone that has lived developmental education. And so, Dr. Milner, I believe you're online. Could you say a few words?
Sure. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to share just a little bit about my history with developmental education and particularly developmental English. When I was invited to come back to speak, I first thought, wow, they think I'm an expert of some sort, so I should come with some credentials and quote Belfield and quote Hunter Boylan and Bracco and look at their work on multiple measures and talk about Kay Hearn's work on of the exponential attrition that occurs in traditional remediation or developmental education. But then I thought, last month I attended an accelerated learning conference sponsored by Amarillo College in Texas. And the vice president of academic affairs said a quote that has stuck with me, and I think it's probably what I've been thinking my entire career. She said, rigor with proper supports and a focus on deep learning is how colleges operationalize love and care for students. The ACME policy, in all of its glory and all of its anger that it has started and the controversy that surrounds it, comes from caring for students and supporting students in a way that we have not in the past 9 years, in a way that we have not in the 6 years before that, probably the 10 or 20 years before 2012 when we were faculty, and yes, I was amongst those faculty, were pushed to accelerate learning in developmental education. And I think we're at a point now where we've seen all of the research, we've looked at our data in Connecticut, that we really need to move on something. The pillars of this type of reform in Connecticut that the ACME policy suggests is supported by national research, is supported by the Dana Center. I can, list many of these scorecards from all of the states that you guys have already studied. I give props to Dr. Kluznik and Dr. DeSantis and the entire group for reviewing all of this work and trying to put these theories into practice. But we can look at scorecards from, Colorado, North Carolina, Georgia, Indiana, and several others who have done some of this work and are seeing since 2015, I would say, and are seeing the fruits of their labors. Florida, just produced a study at the end of 2020 that showed the removal of their prerequisite model, and in most cases the removal of Dev Ed altogether is starting to show a great deal of good for students, right? Students are having to put less money toward developmental courses. Students are having to go into debt less often, and we know that that's a huge problem. My concern mainly, and Regent Harris talks about moving the timeline and giving folks more time to get comfortable with this change, to do more research, to sort of second guess the experts, so to speak. I'm always concerned about that. I think 9 years has been enough. I am, as you mentioned earlier, I am a recipient of Dev Ed. I grew up in Hartford, Connecticut, went, first grade to 12th grade, doing all of the things I was supposed to do, or at least thought I was supposed to do, and graduated in the top of my class from a high school in Hartford, and was immediately told, because of my verbal SAT scores, and I think it was the Nelson Denny Achievement Test back then that colleges used to use for placement, that I did not have appropriate reading comprehension and vocabulary development skills to be placed in what was then college composition course. That was 1988 when I graduated from high school. So that gives you an idea of what I think about shifting timelines and taking more and more time to study, while we keep on perpetuating systemic issues again and again on students generation after generation. Not to mention the exponential attrition we have seen that is caused by the prerequisite model. When students get to, the longer we take to get them through these rigorous courses, and the longer we take to give them the supports to meet the challenge, the longer it's going to take them to get through college, and the more likely they won't get through these courses or get to the gateway courses. If students linger longer than 16 weeks, longer than 32 weeks, it's less likely that they're going to get 60 credits in 3 years or 6 years, even if we move that out. So I applaud the team for even suggesting that we could move the timeline out to 2024, 25. But again, it's 2021. What is going to happen to those students in those 4 years who do not get served? Are we further marginalizing them by taking more time? We sit, and I include myself in this, we sit in a very privileged place to say that we have more time to address these issues. And in the meanwhile, students are taking on college loan debt, trying to get through these courses. Students, the rest of the external factors, including life and COVID and all of the other surprises that come up in 16 weeks or 32 weeks, have time to keep coming up and to interfere. Amarillo College is known best, and now it was one of the finalists for the Aspen Prize, which earned them $100,000 in support, because they have accelerated all of their courses. All of their courses are, an 8-week model, including developmental education, and they are using the co-requisite model. I think it's a compromise not to move to 8 weeks. I think it's a compromise for us to suggest that we will pilot things and sort of see what works, whether that be a 16-week developmental course done in the prerequisite model for the handful of students who still need that model, or looking at one of the 12 campuses doing co-requisite in a very different way than the other 11. I truly believe that we should align and create one course, one style, And then we use our unique identities to offer the types of supports that our students need. But one type of curriculum would serve all 12 campuses and serve all of our thousands of students very well. So there isn't a great deal of variation in experience, where if you go to one of the community college campuses in the city, you get a different experience than one of the ones in the more affluent suburbs, as we know happens frequently in Connecticut. Thus, you have a student at graduate at the top of her class at Weaver and Hartford have a completely different experience than a person who graduates from the top of her class at a Simsbury High School or an Avon High School. So I think we need to stop perpetuating those systemic issues that we know Connecticut has, and start working quickly to create more remedies and solutions, to these problems, that if we're left alone, we would still be talking about, again, 9 years from now, and maybe even further, trying to figure out, okay, what research actually supports student success when we have it right in our faces right now. And I trust and I know that my colleagues have done their homework, so to speak, and that they are not doing anything that attempts to harm students or to harm faculty and staff. They are creating work that will be supportive and that will continue to operationalize our love and care for our students in this thing we call higher education.
Thank you, Tanya. Tanya, I did it right. It's Tanya, right?
It is.
Tanya, okay. In conclusion then, before we have an opportunity for questions, ACME addresses equity with the goal of increasing passage of Gateway Math and English courses and reducing the achievement gap. And that is what we want to see. We want to reduce that achievement gap so all students, no matter where they grew up and attended high school, end up with the same background. ACME does call for a single course. I want to make sure we understand that. There will be a course that is developed that all students will have, but there will be differences in support, and those will be designed also across the system so that if students have different needs, they will get that support, and it will be not one size fits every single student. ACME policy clearly states, and I think this is important, that faculty will be those responsible for building the courses and the support, so that single course will be designed by faculty, and the way the supports are offered will be designed by faculty. ACME has a key advisement component, and this is what we've been talking about with guided pathways. So students will meet with advisors, and they will discuss what their needs are and where they need to be. ACME will require student outcomes so that when a student graduates from one of our community colleges, the receiving institution will know exactly what the student knows. Those outcomes will be carefully developed and monitored. And finally, ACME will call for continuous assessment. There will be annual reporting on the key performance indicators, the KPIs. So the board will constantly be updated on what is happening, and if changes are needed, it will definitely be based on data, not on someone's particular viewpoint. So that's basically what we're talking about today. There's now a time for questions. There are experts available at this point in time to answer questions. I am certainly not a developmental education expert, but they are with us and they can respond to anything that you may say. So I encourage questions at this point in time of the people that can provide the answers.
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you in particular, Dr. Milner. for your remarks and experiences that you shared. Just for purposes of process, let me ask for a motion and a second, then we'll have the discussion. And I noted that Commissioner Russell Tucker raised her hand, and I'd like to turn to her first.
So moved.
Second.
Excuse me, I did want to introduce an amendment. I thought we would do it after the questions, a brief to the policy, not to the resolution. So I don't know if you want me to do that first now, or do you want,
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to withdraw my second, and I bet you Regent Balducci's happy to withdraw his motion.
Sounds like we have a plan.
okay. It's a very, very technical amendment. Again, conversations have been held up until the beginning of this week, and this resolution, this change in the policy itself comes from those discussions. So what I'm going to move is that on page 139 in section 12E, add the word contact between 3 and credit. So it's 3 contact hours. On page 140 in section 13E, the same addition for English as I just said for math. And on page 147 in section 18D5, remove the word curriculum in the first line. They're very technical. Either Ken or Greg could explain it if you wish. So I move that amendment.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the technical amendments? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining on the amendments? Okay, so the amendment is adopted.
Okay, what I will then propose is the motion of the resolution on page 126 with the amended policy. And then we can discuss that obviously before we vote on it at all.
Okay, so we need to remove this?
Just move the resolution on page 126.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay, and a second?
As amended.
Right.
Thank you.
As amended. Okay, great. So discussion now. Commissioner Russell Tucker, I do understand you have to leave us, so let me turn to you out of respect for your time.
Thank you, Chair Flory, and thank you for the welcome to this body. I appreciate being here. And to save time, and I know I have to jump off, I will not repeat any of the things that Dr. Miller so articulately said in terms and with such passion. So thank you for that. And the quote that I wrote down about rigor with supports is exactly the conversation we're having in K-12. Right now, as we're talking about emerging from the pandemic and the learning challenges that were there, the different learning models. So we're having that conversation about how do we accelerate learning and looking at the research and the data. And we recognize intensive supports, tiered supports, supporting exactly what our students need is where it's at. So that is the conversation we're having in K-12 for accelerating learning during this time. So everything you said really connects. So the through line for us, so representing the K-12 space, is to make sure that we can get them better prepared, get our students prepared when they get to you. And I'm pleased to share, if you've not seen that, we do have the P20 Win, the College Enrollment Credit Attainment and Remediation High School report that we've shared with our state board that looks at enrollment, credit attainment, and remediation. And what we've seen is that, right, things are getting somewhat better, but certainly not moving as fast as we would like it to. So how do we accelerate that movement? And really pleased to share with you that under my signature, we really sent out letters to 37,000 plus students around rigorous coursework. And if you're a parent, you've probably gotten some of those letters in the mail, but we're encouraging our students, encouraging our districts to make more rigorous courses available, but also specifically communicating to our families and to our students that you're doing well and you should be considering AP or considering IB or considering dual enrollment courses. So we're trying to encourage that even earlier to make sure that the work gets a little bit easier when the transition is made. So I just really wanted to support for all the things that Dr. Miller really talked about, the cost. And it's the personal cost, it's the social costs, it's all of those, the economic costs.
And so whatever we can do to tier those supports as students need it, we know that's a model that can bear really great results. So I add my voice to that, the efforts that's been made in moving forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate your insights and your work in the K-12 through line category. I see that our student Regent Audrey Nielsen has her hand raised here. Regent Nielsen,
Yes.
you may go ahead.
So I have a couple thoughts on this and questions for you guys. First off is I think just a central confusion, which is this the development of a co-requisite model if students can choose to opt out of the co-requisite supports? And could someone walk me through what here is actually co-requisite to these courses and what here students are able to opt out of through the process? Because I think that's a distinction I need to understand. I think you're muted,
Chair
Regent.
Harris,
Greg or Francine, do you want to answer
and
that?
I just want to lay a little bit of groundwork here. I want us to be able to deal with questions, but just to note that there has been extensive committee level review. So if you find yourself in back and forth on questions that have been addressed at the committee level, just be mindful that they were. But I am not trying to shut down legitimate questions here that were not reviewed or perhaps, need to come to this venue. But just bear in mind that there's extensive committee discussion behind what's come before us today. We don't need to do it all again, and we won't. Okay, so I would like to see someone respond to Audrey's question.
Thank you, Chair Fleury. I can jump in with that. This is one of those questions that was discussed extensively at the committee level, but I will mention that this is a co-requisite model. We believe this is a model in which students will be assigned to co-requisite supports, and we believe that most students will be engaging in those co-requisite supports. There is a possibility for students to opt out of those supports if those students believe, because we believe students should have the agency and the opportunity to do so if those students believe that they would like to attempt the course without such supports that have been recommended to them. That is a process. It'll be several steps for the students to opt out of that, and a process that includes a fair amount of advising and support as students consider their options.
So that process having multiple steps and having to be specifically opted out of rather than opted into is laid out in the requirements for each of the schools to adopt?
Yes, the policy sets parameters that we think lead down that path, and faculty, staff, and administrators that will be working on that on behalf of Connecticut State Community College will make those determinations.
So it is required by this policy, if it were to pass, that the step to remove yourself from this would have to go through advising, to clarify it even more specifically.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I'll just make a point quickly as an academic resource mentor, a peer mentor, and a multiple time teaching assistant through the honors program for my university. That even at the university level, it's my experience that when students are given the opportunity to reduce their workload, they're going to take that opportunity, even if it removes supports and help for them. Is in my time helping students, tutoring students, supporting students, students have been given exceptional support and optional supports outside of their classroom, and given the option to just skip it and try and do it on their own, that is what they've decided to do. And that was also my experience originally coming to this program in 2013 and dropping out of school. I think there is something to be said for actual requirements that are like embedded in the programs, and I think that's something that needs to be considered as we consider approving this.
If I could, Chair Fleury, I would just like to This is Ken Klushnik, just to extend the answer, and it's a great question about optional supports. Dr. Milner already mentioned an article coming out of Florida, and this research was done at the end of the year, published in December 2020, and the whole Florida support process is optional for students. And the results are still very, very positive for students. So this is the latest report that actually looked at a state where taking those supports is an option for students. Students are placed actually to the college level and the supports become optional. That's more accurate to the Florida program. Nevertheless, they're seeing great gains in student success through these courses.
Thank you. Regent Sosenker.
Hi, thanks. So I'd like to just thank you for your comments, Tanya, but I want to just point out that that position is at odds with the sort of prevailing position of the folks who actually teach these courses at this level. And I think that that's important to emphasize. And when I'm speaking in the hopes of conveying that. I believe it was said that the experts, right, the developmental experts are in this room to answer these questions. My understanding that the experts are the people who actually teach these students currently. That is their role. I don't see any of those individuals in this room. And I believe that were they in this room, you would not get supportive comments. So I want to make sure that the issues are presented because of the significant effects this kind of policy can affect. And, you know, we said, has this been addressed before, this issue of the co-requisite? You know, is this a co-requisite model? Well, it has it has been addressed before, and there has been a request made repeatedly that the kind of data or the kind of study that would be applicable to this specific policy, because specifics in policy matter, would be provided. There are many different ways that the studies that have been presented diverge from this policy in a way that they don't stand as evidence of its potential success or failure, right? And again, those who are aware of those studies and have the experience of teaching these students or are responsible for teaching the students right now don't necessarily have faith in this approach, right? For example, in Florida, I don't believe it's exactly like this. There are modifications and to the curriculum in general that support that modification. In California, the funding was built right into the legislation that removed developmental education. Those things matter seriously. When we talk about the discrepancies in the standard of education in places like Hartford versus other places, you can track all of those discrepancies back to resource issues, the way that we fund our educational systems, because there have been a lot of things done recently to standardize educational standards across different school systems, and we still see the differences in how those students are served depending on how they are funded. Our system has become one of those places where we have been consistently underfunded. And yes, we have to address the fact that we have been letting students down, especially Black and Brown students, for the past 10 years. That is 10 years of this board not advocating strongly enough, or at least not visibly enough, right, for the funding that is necessary to make this level of education successful. So I think that we have switched the conversation way too many times. Okay, we presented information about the co-requisite model. It's not clear whether this is an instance of the co-requisite model. So I am going to ask, because none of these folks are here, that what I read now is entered into the minutes as I have it in writing. And it is.
I'm sorry, what you have just stated, or do you intend to read something additionally?
I'm about to read it right now.
All right, how much time do you expect this to take?
Not particularly long. It's a few bullet points.
Okay.
The ACME policy is 1, counter to the goals of transfer articulation since it frustrates rather than facilitates transfer relationships. And you can see that from the statements that Southern sent to you, endorsed by Central. It is, two, not a true co-requisite model of developmental supports, as the course and supports are not jointly required. It is therefore not supported by the provided literature on the efficacy of co-requisite models for gateway courses. Three, is being established as board policy in the absence of any studies that provide support for such an implementation, and that is that all supports are optional and the total elimination of standalone courses simultaneously. Four, does not identify a source of funding for its successful implementation or even establish the level of resources that will be necessary for its success. Five, specifically excludes the possibility of providing the levels of supports, including standalone and mandatory supports, that faculty responsible for its implementation consider necessary to ensure the quality of the curriculum for which they are responsible, and that is NETCHI Standard 3.15. In particular, it does not provide the options deemed necessary for many students who have been underserved by K through 12. It can therefore be seen as the abandonment of some potential students, and for other students, it may cause harm when they fail out of courses that are designed inappropriately. And I believe this is 6. Given the final form of the policy document, it is given that the final form of the policy document is not the product of any of the discipline groups that are responsible for its implementation, neither is it the product of any faculty in the disciplines to which it applies, that some of the fundamental concerns of these groups have yet to fully be addressed, given that those groups therefore remain unconvinced of its efficacy, and that the impact of these courses is far-reaching as they are designed to introduce the foundational skills for college-level work, it stands as evidence that faculty are not, in fact, control of curriculum. And so that's the end of that statement, and I will just give one qualification. I understand that there have been sort of verbal conversations with some of these groups about ways that things can be accommodated and modified in order to bring them into alignment with what these groups are worried about. But none of that is in writing, and there is a worry, especially in the absence of adequate funding, that we're not going to be able to meet those standards. So I think that if there is a genuine effort to modify adequately, this is premature, right? Just as passing, there are other things that have passed through this committee or this board that were not fully fleshed out. And if there is a genuine desire to make sure that those are accommodated, it would be nice to have them in writing to make sure that we are actually going to stand by the quality of the curriculum. So thank you for that time.
Thank you. Dr. Klosnek, I don't know whether your hand is raised posthumously for your prior hand raise, or whether you would like to speak again.
Yeah, it is up, Chair Fleur. Just a point of information that when when Kalina said that nobody from these that teaches these courses was involved, I taught English for 25 years at Manchester Community College and spent about 10 of those years as co-chair of CSET. And many of those years that I taught at Manchester Community College, my focus was on developmental reform. And I will share Dr. Milner's frustration with the slow pace of reform. And I know we shared a department at Manchester Community College and worked together on many of these efforts. So this work was not without the expertise of people who have worked on the ground with these students and with these programs.
All right, thank you. Merle, yes.
One of the things is important to recognize is when you look at co-requisite programs models across the country, there are variations almost in every state. They're not exactly the same. And what I trust is that our faculty will look at those and come up with the appropriate model. Because you can't, but the interesting thing is, even though they're not the same, they all show greater progress in passing gateway courses, particularly for minoritized students. So even though there are variations, they are achieving the goal.
Okay, Regent Cohen. Your hand's up, but your mic is not.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was the part you missed. you know, I've heard this discussion at the committee level. I've listened carefully at the board level. I think the one constant is that everyone shares the desire that more of our students meet success so that they continue their educations and complete their path to life. And what I stands out for me is that this approving this is not going to take effect until 2023 at the earliest, and perhaps even into 2025. That the board or the administration is in no way going to develop the curriculum without that's going to be faculty driven. And frankly, I think we're at a point in the road, a fork in the road. We looked at the Connecticut data. We went kicking and screaming as a board, those of us who were here in 2012, when the legislature told us that we could no longer require our students to use up all their money on courses that did not count for credit and then have no money left to use for courses toward a degree. We can keep doing that, but we found out that developmental education helped some of them. And yet you look at the data from Connecticut that was shown earlier, we're still woefully behind. So I would say, let's just move forward. And we have 2 years to understand how it's exactly going to move forward. But otherwise, we're just going to keep up the same shameful results that we've had in the past. So in that light, and with you know, deep respect for everyone who doesn't agree, I would like to make a motion to call the question. It's time to stop discussing and start acting.
Naomi, I just want to point out that there's a student regent with her hand up.
Right, and I'm calling those who wish to speak in the order that I see them. And I see Audrey and and Tanya. So Tanya, please go ahead, and then we'll come back to Audrey, and then we'll be mindful of Regent Cohen's remarks and allow this board to make a decision on this.
Mr. Chairman, that motion is not debatable and must take action on it. The motion to call the question.
Oh.
So
I'm fine without my comment being said. I'm fine.
Okay, either you vote it or you ask Chairman Cohen to rescind that. So
I'll be happy to rescind it. I'll be happy to rescind it.
Thank you. Okay, so what we'll do here is hopefully a happy compromise and perhaps a closing on 2 deeply relevant perspectives here. Ask Audrey if she would like to go ahead, and then Tanya, we'd come back to you in that we are open for another couple of comments, and then we are going to close the discussion.
I think it's completely out of line to end debate on this discussion. I think that this is a really important decision that we're making that's going to impact an exceptional amount of students, and that there should be a lot of room for back and forth in the continuation of this conversation. And just referencing that the committee has gone through so much work on this, that means that we should be able to ask questions of them as members of the board who are not on the committee and get clear and short answers that should help us make this decision. That's the function of a committee reporting to the larger board. And my comments and my question that I had prepared is not going to be fruitful if we can't have a continuing discussion without the looming end of this debate.
Would you like to ask a question?
I have many questions. I will ask my next question, and I will reiterate that I do not think that is right for us to end this discussion. my main question is, I saw that in response to concerns that the team decided to remove specific guidance on the assignment of credit hours to the co-requisites, but that they can't exceed 3 hours per the actual class. My concern here with PACT is that that's putting the burden on the colleges to figure out how to, because they're not allowed to assign any grade or penalty to the supportive work. So they can't do a AF grade and they can't do pass fail, that they have to account for requisite course support work while somehow still not creating an incentive for students to take over 15 hours of actual applied working time with an instructor, with other students, in order to qualify for PACT free tuition. And my concern, if that's not addressed specifically, instead of just removing the burden from this description and moving that burden to the colleges themselves, is that we could be creating a system that ends up setting up students who are going to be financially motivated to access that PACT resource to overload themselves and set themselves up for failure.
Thank you. Would a member of the staff like to respond to that? To the extent there's a comment or a concern raised to which you could respond?
Sure, Chair Fleury, I can at least start that just to indicate that that is one of the points that was part of the extensive discussion over the past year about how we should approach credit assessment to support. And ultimately, there was a consensus that the institution in developing the courses should make determinations about that based on how the supports are designed by faculty and others who will contribute to that effort.
Allow me to clarify. I saw that change was made, but what wasn't changed is the requirement that these supports not have any punitive grading to them. So if one is changed but the other isn't changed, how does that reduce the likelihood of creating that basically negative feedback loop for students who are trying to reach their credit total? Because you're basically asking the colleges to figure out how to assign mandatory working time without assigning a way to give a grade, and that means they're going to have to find out how to assign credits to a class that they cannot grade.
Yeah, I can start that as well. It's just to indicate that luckily there are examples of that within the system and beyond that we hope that folks will look at as they determine how to do exactly what you're describing. And I will add here that one of the remarks we heard as we went through this process was this, and I'm going to paraphrase it. I obviously won't be able to quote it exactly, but it was the idea that if a student gets a B in the course content for math, let's say, so they've passed the course content, the outcomes have been met with a B grade, a passing grade, but the student opted not to continue with the supports, that student should be able to be penalized somehow in terms of that grade. It's a specific example we received that those students should maybe get a C+ or some lower grade instead. We believe that students have earned that grade at that time and that the grading for the course should remain the grading for the course.
That was one of the issues Amarillo College dealt with as well, with their co-requisite model, whether or not the student should receive 2 separate grades, one for the content and one for the co-req. And they did decide that they would have 2 grades, but the co-requisite grade would not interfere in any way with the content course grade. So as Dr. DeSantis said, if a student chose not to complete the co-req model, the portion of their grade, they didn't complete all of the requirements, it would not affect whether or not they did, A work, B+ work in English 101, for example. So it wouldn't affect them negatively.
Okay. Thank you, Tanya. Was there anything you wanted to add, Tanya? Because I did promise you, I think, the last word here.
Is the student regent done? I don't want to infringe.
I just asked a follow-up question for DeSantis or to anyone who can answer them. You mentioned examples of non-graded, non-pass fail credit-bearing courses at the colleges. And I couldn't find them in any of the supporting documents that were supplied to us. So I was wondering if you could share some of those examples.
Yes, we'd be happy to put that together for you. I'll speak with Dr. Kluchnik, who also oversees that area, and Dr. Gates, who is not here today, to assemble that.
That would be fundamental to my vote on the motion. So I would either need to hear about them now, or if we can't discuss them, that it wouldn't be able to influence my vote either way.
Understood. Okay, so we moved and seconded after an amendment. So I believe we can move to a vote on this procedure-wise. Am I right, Pam?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Chairman Fleury. I would just like to request that we do the vote by roll.
I'm sorry, I had trouble hearing you. Please say again.
I would just like to request that we conduct the vote via roll call.
Okay. The record's going to note who has voted for and who's voted against.
I would still like to conduct it via roll call, please. Thank you. And
Okay.
as that request has been made, it now has to. Thank you.
Madam Assistant Secretary, I'm sorry, I'm not sure enough about my Roberts rules to know what to do about that, other than philosophically, really, it's not material to me.
I will call the roll for the vote that has been first and seconded on the floor. This is the vote to accept the ACME resolution and the amended policy that goes with. With your permission, Chair Fleury?
Please proceed.
Chair Fleury,
Aye.
Regent Harris,
Aye.
Regent Balducci,
Yes.
Regent Budd,
Aye.
Regent Cohen,
Yes.
Regent Gray Kemp,
Aye.
Regent Howery,
Aye.
Regent Jimenez,
Aye.
Regent Ryan,
Aye.
Regent Wright,
Aye.
Student Regent Redpath,
Nay.
Student Regent Oglesby.
Nay.
Chair Fleury, that completes the vote. We have 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 yay votes and 2 nay votes. The resolution passes.
Okay, thank you. We do not have any other committee reports. Time is going on here, so I think we are going to dispense with an executive session, and I'll just ask, to the extent there are matters that the board needs to be aware of, the management team to attend to those through other venues or at our next meeting. So may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.